So good to see you again.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time. I know your story.
Which story?
Your life story, with bits and parts of it. But I want you to tell our audience, your journey. How did you end up in Dubai?
David was in the army.
David, your husband?
Yes, of 30 years. Was in the British Army and was offered a job here with the Emirate Army.
Do you feel Dubai has been home? Is home?
No, I wanted to come here so much because it was bells and whistles and everything. So much better than our life was in England. And then I kind of fought with the idea that I had to leave, that this wasn't real life, because in some ways it really isn't. Yeah. We are so spoiled here. And that I just had to go home, I needed my own home, and I needed to start building my real life. And with all of the mess that's been going on over the last couple of years, I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, step back, look at how amazing this place is, and how lucky we are to be here. So we have decided to stay, and I'm now at peace with this being my home.
You said you've been married to David, your husband, for 30 years.
Yeah, and I still like him.
So, what is marriage?
It's not giving up. It's trying to be kind, knowing that you're wrong, learning to apologize, which is, I think that's probably everybody's issue. I don't know, what is marriage? We've only had one humdinger that nearly took us, if anything was going to take us to divorce, that would have been it, and that's when we were homeless. David lost his job and we were literally sleeping on a mattress on the floor for 6 months, and he was going off to coffee shops every day, and I'm thinking, he's going to coffee shops, spending money on coffee, he's on his laptop. So we'd come back and I'd literally say, how many jobs have you applied for today? You know, I'd never been in that situation before, and it was scary, and it was, I just was out of control. So that was the worst time, but we got over it.
So do you think finances have an influence on a marriage, and in what way?
Gosh, that's a question.
Because I'll tell you where this is coming from. You know, some people say love doesn't put food on the table, and you know, other people say, well, love is everything, you know, money comes and goes. Like, you've been married for 30 years, I think you're the perfect person to shed some light on that. I think,
well, it's not money, but one thing that we did a 100-kilometer run together. Mm-hmm. It took us over 16 hours together.
Wow.
It was miserable, especially finishing at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we held hands, and we were in England, and there were rivets. You know how wet mud, you get those big holes, pitch black, because his blooming head torch wasn't very bright. And we were falling down these things, so you couldn't run. And we held hands and we taught each other to finish. That I have never been so grateful to have him as my husband as I was then. I could not have done it alone, and finishing together was huge. Money-wise, I think you can be rich and get divorced. You can be poor and get divorced. So I don't suppose it has anything to do with it. It was just the surroundings of it. He had entered Ironman before he lost his job. That was in Hawaii, the World Championships. When he didn't enter, he qualified for it. So that was really big for him. So during this period where we're sleeping on a mattress in an empty apartment without AC, he goes to Hawaii.
And did you have your kids at this point?
We had Mimi. But he went off to Hawaii and left me with 2 dogs and a child on a sunbed, sleeping on a sunbed. And that sort of just sent me over the edge. So it wasn't the money thing, it was just a change of circumstances and what was going on in my head and what was going on in his head. I wasn't taking control of me. I was sitting back and saying, well, why aren't you providing for me anymore? What are you doing? What's going on with you? Instead of what's going on with me. And
Do you
that's
believe,
what I learned from that.
So do you believe in forever?
Oh yes. I mean, why would I want to train another husband? Absolutely, I'm sticking with David.
You said that you were saying to him, like, why are you not providing?
Yeah.
So do you believe in the
Old-fashioned
patriarchy, men provide, women?
It's not what I believe on for everybody, obviously. Things change, but I was brought up not to have a career. I never wanted a career. And in a way, we've kind of brought our daughter up that way. Not to not have a job, to bring income in, but not a lifetime career. All I wanted to do was get married and have children. That's what I was brought up to do. It's old-fashioned and probably really not even possible these days, the way things are. Everybody's different, but I'm 57. It's the way it is for me. I now have an income, which I'm creating myself. That's my money. So look, I get to buy things that I've never been able to buy, ever in my life. And I'm loving every minute of it.
You said you're 57. When did you go grey?
Well, it's a bit difficult to remember. Probably in my 20s.
And why did you go grey? Maybe that would be my question.
Why did I go grey? Because I got bored of dyeing my hair every 3 weeks. You're driving along, sun comes through the sunroof, and you get this, this white hairs that scream at you. Well, you probably don't know, but.
No, I've started going grey. Like, I've got like a lot of roots. So I said to my hairdresser, I'm like, should I go grey? She was like, no, it's still too soon. Just hold off. Yeah,
it's not too soon, I would say, but very hard. When you have such dark hair, the longer you leave the transition, the harder it is, because you're going to have that growth. When everybody in the world says to you, why are you doing that? Why haven't you dyed your hair? What's going on? And that puts you back in your hair dye box.
So you said that you've now got a career and you've got your own income. You're in the modeling industry and it is so cutthroat and competitive.
Not really.
No?
At 57 with grey hair.
So I was going to ask you, with things being so competitive, there's always someone younger and more beautiful and this and that. Do you feel insecure? Do you have any insecurities?
No. I feel braver and more excited about my life right now than I ever have.
Wow.
B, obviously I have competitors, but I don't think any of us feel like we're competing against each other, because we have found ourselves. We've found our characters. We're generally happy with them and we're sticking with them. And we are all very different. Whereas in your 20s, 30s, 40s, I don't believe you've really found yourself. You've got a lot of experiences to go through.
Even
bad
40s?
shit stuff, if I'm allowed to say that, and the good stuff, which will create the person that you will eventually become. And I'm still learning about myself, and I'm still always trying to be a better person, because I do swear quite a lot. But you still have a lot to learn. Everybody has a lot to learn, and that's who I am becoming, the person that I really am.
Do you have any insecurities?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, yes. Somebody said this, so somebody will send me a message on Instagram. I read all my messages, and I don't get very many unpleasant ones. But recently, somebody said, "Were you born man or woman?" And I just thought, that it just pops up in my head quite frequently, that somebody would ask a question. Maybe that's a 2022 question. Maybe that's what you ask people these days.
Gender fluidity.
Yes,
and all of that.
yes. So maybe I shouldn't be offended by it. But I kind of was. I don't know. If I was born a man and become a woman, I think I would be advertising it and I'd be milking it. But I was born a woman and I have children.
If you were given another chance to be born a different gender,
oh my gosh.
would you?
Oh. I don't know. What about you?
No, I would be born a woman because there's so many perks of being a woman.
Yes. Well, but are there any more? Are men allowed to open doors for women anymore? I mean, for goodness sake.
But also, like,
I feel men are being battered by women.
But I also feel like by perks, I mean, like, you know, we get to be more like feminine, and you know, with femininity,
change our clothes lots of times a day.
Yeah, with femininity comes like, you know, like we can be regal, we can be majestic, we can be luxurious, but men don't get to experience that.
I think some men might differ
Yes.
on that opinion. But I agree with you, but I do think that the whole feminism thing, and I've been bashed for it, but I'm not a feminist. I agree women supporting women, but I do think that women are giving men a really hard time.
Yeah.
And I think many men don't know what they're supposed to do anymore. My son walks on the traffic side of the street always when he's walking with a woman, to the point where he will just push me out of the way to get out. Mum, I'm trying to walk on the traffic side of the street. Who does that?
Yeah. I also, like, I believe in feminine and masculine energy, and you know, we should have a balance, a little bit of. I
think we should get off the gender subject. I think we do. I think it makes me a little bit nervous nowadays to talk about it, because you don't want to offend anyone. It's a scary world. Everybody be what they want to be, but men shouldn't go into women's loos. That is one thing. That is one thing. I was in England, there's unisex loos.
Oh, okay. It's not here in Dubai yet.
Well, no, I don't think it'll ever happen here, but I was quite shocked. You go in there and think, whoa. And the man came in and he started washing his hands next to me washing my hands. And it felt very uncomfortable.
Yeah, but again, there's this whole everyone's equal and...
Yeah, but not in the loo.
No.
No. Let's not do that.
You've lived long enough to answer this question. What would you say your wake-up call in life was?
One of them, and probably one that planted the seed, would be going back to the homelessness.
How old were you at this point?
It was about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I called somebody and they told me that I had to take control. And so that planted a seed inside of me, but I didn't do it straight away, because that was like, what? I don't take control, I stand behind my husband. I'd done that in the British Army for all of my married life. And I was happy doing that.
And this was in Dubai?
This was in Dubai, yeah. And that definitely did make me wonder if I could, and even if I wanted to. Then a little bit later, I got this job offer in London to model. First job modeling. And so they flew me to London. They said they wanted me. I got the job. I was in British Vogue 8 times in the first year, which was just mind-boggling. And that made me think, I love this. I want to do this. My kids are grown up. My husband's happy. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do me. And that was just, the seed had been planted, and I think that put water on it. And
so would you say that would be your wake-up call?
The homelessness was the wake-up call. And realizing that I could be in control of me.
How do you feel about getting older?
I'm loving it, actually. I'm not loving my skin texture, and I'm not loving that things are heading south, but things can be done. It's 2022, who knows what will be available in the future. I'm quite excited about being 60. I'm going to be 58 this year. My husband, it's funny because my husband gets so excited about his age going up because he gets to move into a different category in triathlon. So he gets very excited getting older. So yeah, I'm happy because I'm not old. No. And as long as I do the best for me, I hopefully will make the aging process.
Well, I said this to you when I first met you. I want to be you. When I'm like, I met you 3-4 years ago, you were 55 at the time, I'm like, I want to be you. And I remember you said it to me then, and you said it just now, earlier, like, I haven't got my stuff together.
Yeah. People say, what, I want to be you when I'm grown up. And I said, well, I don't know what I want to be when I'm grown up yet. And also people say, what do you do? Well, I don't know. I know what I'm doing today, but I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. So I don't actually call myself anything in a job sense, because I do pretty much anything that's offered to me because it's so exciting.
So being on the aging and getting older topic, are you for or against plastic surgery?
Absolutely for. Absolutely. Do what you want to do. And if you don't like jowls, and you can see that your mother has jowls and that your grandmother has jowls, then if you can afford it, don't have jowls.
So being on the same topic of aging, or in general, is there anything in your life, maybe you haven't lived long enough to answer this, but is there anything that you're ashamed of?
I try to forget those things because there is no point thinking about those things. I did some silly things in my youth, but I wouldn't change any of them because, as I said in the very beginning, they have made me
who I am
today. So I think it's important to make mistakes. I mean, how boring would life be if you went through never making a mistake? So just get on and live your life as long as you're not hurting people. I'd like to say that my mistakes didn't hurt anyone, but I did do some silly things. But hey-ho, did you do silly things?
A lot.
There you go.
Yeah, and I'm sure I will continue to.
Yeah. And my children have done silly things, and just get on with it.
If I came to you and I said to you, you could be anything you want to be, you can have any career that you could have, what would you choose as a career?
Well, I haven't decided.
No?
I don't know. No, I want to keep trying lots of different things.
Do you feel like you've achieved all your dreams, or you still have?
Definitely not.
No?
Gosh, there are so many countries to see, and magazines to be in.
Religion or spirituality?
Oh, spirituality, definitely.
Do you believe in God, higher power?
No, I don't. Sorry, don't want to offend anyone. No, we were forced to go to church as children, and in fact, I remember when Mimi was quite small, she was probably about 6, and all the brothers and sisters, 5 of us, we were all at home for Christmas, and my 2 sisters were saying, right, come on girls, let's get ready for church, everybody. And I said, I'm not going. And they said, oh, but you've got to go, you've got to go. Mimi piped up and said, God is everywhere. I was like, bravo, Mimi, absolutely. So that kept them quiet for a little bit. But when I was small, I remember somebody in the village got divorced and they were no longer accepted at church.
Yep.
And that just didn't seem right to me. I've never considered myself a religious person, but to see a church say, you've been coming here for 20 years, but now we don't want you anymore because of what you did, that's not kindness. So, no.
Prayer or meditation?
Neither. Honestly, in fact, they were talking about meditation on the radio this morning, and the guy was saying, I just haven't got time for it. It isn't that you don't have time for it, it's just letting go. Are you good at that? Can you let go?
It's a human thing. It's
I
being
can't relax
human
enough to do that.
But we're also having a human experience, right? Life happens. You have to be here and do things. So I see what you mean. Like, we're having a human experience.
Yeah. I'd rather talk to somebody. I'd love to sit down and have coffee with somebody rather than meditate.
Like, this is therapy.
I'm really sorry. Again, I'm really sorry. I'm apologising.
Don't apologise.
It's that is therapy for me, sitting and talking to somebody. Somebody messaged me, and this is going to be my latest bandwagon actually, and said, I don't know who to talk to. I've got some issues with incontinence. She's late 30s, had 2 babies. I don't know who to talk to about it. That is what I'm here for. And I said, do you have a gynecologist? No, she doesn't. Would you like me to try and find one? So I will put on Instagram, does anyone know a gynecologist in this area? Menopause was my thing. That's been taken over, and people are going great guns everywhere about menopause, which is fantastic. But everybody needs to know that it's okay to talk, it's okay to ask questions. If you've had a baby, you're probably going to wet yourself in later life, basically. And it's so important to get it fixed. It's so fixable. So that is my mission in life, to help.
Do you believe
women.
in therapy?
I think you've got to get on with your therapist. I have had a bit of therapy. I'm on happy pills. Been on happy pills for many years. They
What
work.
is happy pills?
Citalopram,
Okay.
depression
Okay.
thing. I've tried to go off them many times, but it doesn't work. And the doctors just say, just stay on them, they work.
Are you on them now?
Yeah.
And it's working for you?
I'm not always happy, but I take my happy pills. But therapy, I don't know. I think this is therapy.
This is.
Yeah, women, I
said-
believe we have a power
Yeah.
to help each other.
I said to a friend yesterday, we were sitting together, and I said, this is therapy.
Yeah.
Like, a lot comes out.
Yes.
And sometimes you say things, and you're like, well,
where did that come
where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then you reflect on that. And
Yes.
then, yeah. So what is vulnerability to you?
This.
It is.
It is, like you said, stuff just comes out of your mouth, and then you get to think about it later on. Very often I'll think, oh gosh, did I really say that? Oh, cringe. But generally, it's healthy, and men don't talk to each other. We're going back on the sex thing again, and I love it. If you're a man out there and you are talking, bravo, brilliant. But not all men do. Whereas generally, my gosh, if you get a couple of women together, off they go.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Do it all again. I would not do anything that I did, even if they were silly
Really?
things. No. Because I wouldn't be who I am today. That one thing that you went back and changed would change the future.
Or let me reframe it. Like, what advice do you give Mimi?
No, I just keep harping back to make the mistakes, and as long as you're not hurting anyone, it doesn't matter. And be true to yourself, I think, probably. But okay, you're so young, you've got so much to learn.
Yeah.
Just keep taking it in.
What is your biggest pet peeve when it comes to social media?
I think probably that people can make accounts, be horrible, block them, and then they just make another account and be horrible again.
The last 2 years, like, a lot has changed for a lot of people. Like, everybody's perspective on life has changed. How has the last 2 years shaped, like, your perspective on life?
I know that I like people. I've always known that I like people, but that period of time when we couldn't be with people, that was the toughest. And David was so happy every day. He was so happy. He was Zooming. He was running up and down the stairs. We did Burj Khalifa challenge where we ran up and down stairs a million times, that sort of thing. I said, just say sometimes, could you just not be happy just for 5 minutes? Just come and be
Human.
low with me just for a little while. Well, that's his human. He's a happy soul. He's content. Whereas I missed touching people, and I missed eye-to-eye contact. A Zoom wasn't good enough. So I did learn that.
So you're grateful for human connection?
Yes. Yes.
I want to end it on this note. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable. I think when I asked you what is vulnerability, this is.
This is.
You've been so open and vulnerable, and I appreciate that.
I'd just like to say also I can't remember very much. I'm not very good at remembering, so if I actually told you a lie, I wouldn't remember. So it's much better to be honest, and then you don't have to.
I know, I've known you for many years. Like, from the minute I met you, you're just authentically you, and I think we need more of that. And that is the whole point of these conversations, to get to know the person behind the blog and behind the curated and filtered life. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.